Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode review from Star Wars The Bad Batch's second episode, Cut and Run. Thank you so much for tuning in. I greatly appreciate it. Before we go any further, though, I would just like to say there will be spoilers ahead. So if you have not already seen the second episode of Star Wars The Bad Batch titled Cut and Run, I would strongly suggest you go watch that episode and then come back and check out today's episode review. So with that warning, there will now be spoilers in 3, 2, 1. Alright, let's get started. Overall, I like this episode. Cut Lawquane, who appeared in the 10th episode of Star Wars The Clone Wars' second season, the Deserter, as a titular deserter, returns in Cut and Run. If you recall, in The Deserter, Cut and Rex have some great scenes together where Cut helps Captain Rex to learn how to think more independently. Sue Lawquane and the Lawquane children also return, all voiced by their respective actors from that Season 2 episode of The Clone Wars. I love this continuity, and like I said in my last episode review, I feel like The Bad Batch is truly a continuation of The Clone Wars, except that we are focusing on a different set of main characters. And I love how we check in with some characters we haven't seen in over 10 years, and I also love how the Lawquane family receives a happy ending at the episode's conclusion. However, there was one aspect of Cut's return that I didn't like, which was how the Bad Batch knew about Cut's whereabouts and Echo did not. Echo wasn't in the Deserter episode from the Clone Wars, but he was in the 501st with Captain Rex, so I felt like it would make more sense for Rex to have told Echo about Cut, as opposed to the Bad Batch knowing about him. I feel like the Bad Batch knowing about Cut makes the universe feel smaller, and also raises the question of how many people knew Cut deserted, and why didn't anyone come after him. One aspect I loved from that Deserter episode from the Clone Wars was the stakes of whether Rex would follow protocol and turn Cut in, or if he would keep Cut's desertion a secret, and I feel like having other clones know Cut's secret diminishes the effects of Rex's decision from that episode. Hopefully we'll learn a reason that makes sense as to how the Bad Batch know of Cut's whereabouts. And talking about Echo a bit more, despite Echo's action scenes in this episode, I feel Echo is the most underused member of the Bad Batch so far throughout the first 2 episodes. Echo has been around since the 5th episode of the Clone Wars' first season, and the Bad Batch arc from the Clone Wars' 7th season focused on developing Echo's character more than it did developing the other members of the Bad Batch, so I have been a bit surprised with how Echo has been relegated to the background in this series, and how the character development has been primarily going to Hunter, Omega, and Crosshair instead. One thing I was confused about from this episode was how none of the clones who are now part of the Empire realized that Cut and the Bad Batch were also clones. There were scenes where Cut talked directly to clones as he was boarding the ship, and with the exception of one clone who began to figure things out, no one realized that Cut was also a clone. I assume it was because of the inhibitor chips, but I would think the inhibitor chips wouldn't really affect this, so that's one question that I have that I hope gets resolved in future episodes. However, overall, I enjoyed this episode. Last week I said it looks like Hunter will be the protagonist, and this episode solidified that opinion a bit, as the episode's character development moments primarily focus on Hunter and Omega. I love the relationship between Hunter and Omega. It reminds me a little bit of the Mandalorian's relationship with Grogu in that live-action Star Wars series. I also really like the return to Saleucami, and as for the next episode, I'm not too sure where the Bad Batch will be headed, but Cut did mention he saw Captain Rex the day before, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see Rex in the next episode. Well, those are my thoughts from Star Wars The Bad Batch's second episode, Cut and Run. What are your thoughts? Please let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's video. If you're interested, I would greatly appreciate it if you checked out my Patreon account, which I have linked to below. Have a great day. See you next time.